right, I want to welcome everybody. There's a few more I'm sure will be joining in. Welcome to the second of 6 chairman's briefings, and I appreciate you all being here today. As you remember, the purpose of the chairman's briefings is just to give commissioners an opportunity to have a deep dive into bigger discussions and items that are hard to cram into our regular meetings. An opportunity for us to sort of dig deep into a particular topic or area of note. And today's chairman's briefing is all about transportation, and TDOT partners are going to be with us. And this is all about state transportation as it relates to regional and local transportation. As a growing county, it's certainly something we talk about a lot, our infrastructure needs. And certainly we have different jurisdictions to work through with our city and county partners, as well as Farragut. And then, of course, on a regional and a statewide level, it's a big deal. So I thought it'd be a good topic to dig into, and hope you'll have good questions. From our team at TDOT, and the box there, you'll see Dexter Justice. He's the Region 1 Project Development Manager, and then Steve Borden, who's a Region 1 Director. And in the back there is Andrew from Team TDOT, who's helping run the presentation. And of course, anything that they showed today, I will follow up and send that out to everyone soon after. So if you didn't catch something, then I'll be able to send the whole slide deck out. Topics are still open for the next briefings in February, April, June, and August. So if you have any ideas, bring that. And I want to thank everybody who's here and who might be joining us. We also have Brad from Engineering and Public Works with us, and I think several others viewing through the live stream video. So with that, I'll turn it over to our partners at TDOT, and we'll learn more about regional and state transportation. Thank you all, and the mic is yours.
All right. Well, it's an honor to be here. Thank you, Chairman. Just an opportunity to be here. Of course, obviously, we are all partners when it comes to transportation in our community where we live, and we're thankful to be here and be a part of the team. We're going to throw up a presentation. Andy is here just shortly, and with that, I'll kind of give you an overview of where we are now as far as the department. Obviously, we're all living in a new world and times when you talk about COVID-19, and that it has impacts to us. We'll touch on that. I'll touch a little bit on what we do at the department as a whole, the transportation program that we oversee here in East Tennessee. And then we'll get a deeper dive into projects inside of Knox County and in the surrounding area that are regionally significant, obviously, to all of us that live here in Knox County. So with that, I will get started. Starting out, one of the things a lot of times when we go out and talk, a lot of people want to know how this has impacted us. Obviously, when you look at the traffic numbers, this is a graph that kind of shows where we were at earlier this year. As you can see, going in earlier in the year, we were actually above where we had been the previous year. And then you see the drop as we got into March. Obviously, the majority of our funding comes from the fuel tax between diesel as well as gas is the vast majority. And so when you have less vehicle miles driven, it does have an impact on the financial side of how much money is coming into the department. And it does the same thing because a lot of the money that we collect does pass through to the counties for their road program as well. So this gives you an idea of where we are in the major metropolitan areas. If you look here, this is a slide real quick, just shows you how Tennessee fares with the rest of the nation. We're a little bit above what the average is as far as our impact. Has been a little bit less when you normalize it out. Still, there is a pretty good size impact to us, especially in the early spring when you look at those numbers. Kind of this graph here will kind of give you an idea of the impact and what it was earlier this year. When you look over the circle around that drop off, that's that March area where we saw everything, April, March, when things started shutting down. And if you look across, you have to get back all the way back to 2008 to get volumes that are somewhat similar. If you notice, from 2012, 14, all the way up to 19, we had a significant climb in the number of millions of miles that were traveled across the U.S. So right now, we fell back into, several years ago when you look at the numbers. What does it mean? Our fuel tax is correlated somewhat with the vehicle miles traveled. I mean, that's going to have an impact. And this is an older slide, but it sort of showed what at the end of the year in May and June, we were down about $45 million on the state side in our collections. The state revenue were funded in two places, with it being state and federal taxes, the ones that go to Washington and then come back. But we had been over, when you look through July through February prior to the pandemic, of about 40 million. We did some administrative savings to tighten our belt. And at the end of the fiscal year, we kind of really hit about where we expected to, knowing that this fiscal year, though, we would have to see those impacts. Looking at it as we go forward, I think that when you start looking at what we're probably seeing, you're probably looking at this year probably about an 8% reduction in the amount of revenue on the state side moving forward. We got next slide there, yeah. If you looked at the worst case scenarios that were early on, we would be looking at about $250 million in difference. We're not going to hit that mark. We should be 100 million or less in reduction of funds on the state side, and we're doing a lot of things to try to do it. And what that does for us, as you all know, we're a pay-as-you-go state, which is a great thing. There's only 5 states left in the U.S. that are pay-as-you-go. We own all of our infrastructure. There's no bond debt anywhere on any of it. We let projects to construction or whatever phase we're doing as we have those funds available. In doing so during this pandemic, we have been able to weather it pretty well, because a lot of our neighboring states actually had projects that were midstream and had to stop them even in the construction phase, just because they didn't have enough money coming in to balance the books to be able to pay out expenditures, or they had to go and get some additional debt service to be able to pay that off. We've not had to do any of that. What it could mean to us in the future, you could see, and it won't be 225, but based on what we're seeing now, you could see an 80 or $70 million reduction in capacity or big projects that might be delayed. So you could see a project or two that could slide a year just because of us being a pay-as-you-go state. Then that's, if the money's not there, then we won't move forward with the project. One thing we did this year, we requested $68 million in additional funding. It's one of those great things that happens, and we've always been good at the department, is being able to be ready to spend money. The redistribution is basically us taking advantage of other states that didn't spend all of their money. I think, was it last year? How much did we get?
125 million.
I think 125, 130 million is what we got last year. And basically what's great about that, that's federal money that was going somewhere else. They didn't have enough state money to match or whatever. It's left on the table. And then we get a redistribution, and then that's $68 million that gets spent in the state of Tennessee that would have normally been spent somewhere else. We did have the FAST Act that was going set to expire September 30th. They've extended that. The big thing right now is that we don't have a long-term bill in place, which does give us some difficulty that we could get on a continuing resolution. If that happens, that means that we'll get so much money per day, and it will be a little bit less certain of what that will be. Obviously, we have election year that we've had. You've got a lot of other things that's sitting out there. We do think that, reading what's going on in Washington, that we'll see some stimulus, similar to what the ARA top projects were. We did a bunch. If we have shovel-ready projects or projects that are ready to go in 12 or 24 months, then we'll be able to tap in some additional funding there. We do have projects that fit that bill. It's one of the things that we try to do as a department as we get further into the project development process we talk about. We try to develop and have more projects ready than we have money for. It sounds kind of crazy, but to have them ready in case we have the opportunity for a redistribution like I talked about earlier, or if you see something that's similar in nature to what we had with the ARA money, where there's money available, and then we can put those projects out the door quickly. So kind of do an overview of what we do here at the department in the region. It's 24 counties, and East Tennessee is what we cover here in the Knoxville office. Have a lot of different disciplines that are under this house. If you look on the project development side, which is what Dexter, his side of the house, I guess starting out, we have the top, we have our own survey division. We go out and do our own survey for projects as well as oversee consultants. This is a LiDAR scan of a flooding issue that we did several years ago. Those are millions of points of data that we're able to go in and correct the issue. At the same time, we have our own drones that are able to go in. You're getting data that's good to less than 1/4 of an inch, which allows us to be pretty creative, especially with rock slides and things like that, that we can get a lot of really good data really quickly in-house. The design section, we have a fully staffed design office that does in-house design as well as oversees projects from consultants that are doing work for us as well. Give you an idea of something. This is pretty neat. This is if you ever go to our website, and we can send you all some links here later, but if you look at the Alcoa Highway Corridor, you're going to see a 3D model, and you'll eventually pretty soon be able to see the whole corridor. We can actually share a few of the videos that haven't been edited with for the voiceovers yet that are done. But this isn't a video. It's actually a 3D model of the whole project, which is pretty cool, that you can run through the whole project. You can stop anywhere. When we did the public meeting for this particular project, we were the first state in the country to ever do a virtual public meeting. You could, in 3D, people could walk in, they could actually look at their own property with 3D goggles on and see exactly how the project was going to look in their area or how it functioned and so forth. So this is some of the stuff that you'll see that we do in a lot of our large major projects. It's the direction we're going. We're not there completely yet. We're doing on some major projects, but not all of them. We also have an environmental section. Obviously, we do our own permits here and apply for them, do a lot of environmental boundary work and things like that. It's a big part and component of developing a project when you're in that early NEPA environmental phase. Get that early design done, and then we move into what the next thing is: right of way. Obviously, we're a large real estate company in the sense that we buy and purchase a lot of right of way. We sell and lease a lot of right of way as well. So there's a lot of work that's done anytime we're widening a project, obviously, that we have to go out and purchase right of way for that. And we also have a utility sections that works on coordination. Anytime, especially when you're building or widening a project, one of the most difficult things, kind of like remodeling a house. If you build a brand new house, it kind of sits by itself. But when you start remodeling or adding on, I just added on to my house about 3 or 4 years ago. There's a lot of things that you find along the way that you didn't expect to be there. A lot of the other stuff is that way now. And one of the things we do to deconflict projects, time is money. Is that we do a lot of 3D modeling, and as we move further into the 3D world, we can do this virtually. But as you can see here, this is a lot of underground utilities on a particular project, and you're doing underground utilities, several different types, along with our storm drainage. And the software goes in as we deconflict with our partners in the utility world. We go in and deconflict those spots ahead of the contract, obviously, and refine the plan so that we can make sure that we're not getting a signal footing into a water line, or a storm sewer doesn't cross into a water or sewer line as well. So it helps mitigate some expense on the back end by doing that. Kind of gives you a rough idea of some of the things that we do there in the project development side. The other side is operations. When you look total in the department, we have about 850 employees in Region 1. About 110, 20 of them are in project development. The rest are in the operations side, which is a pretty large portion. One of the things you see a lot is the construction side of the house. That's our inspection of our big projects, oversight of them that you'll see. You'll see maintenance as well, traffic, safety, and incident management. I'll talk a little bit about them in detail. When you look at projects, and this is an interesting slide, it looks like right now we have around $740 million under contract in East Tennessee. Maintenance is about $40 million on top of that. This slide here kind of gives you an idea, and this is not by cost, but by the number of projects, because obviously a grade, drain, and pave job is going to be a lot more expensive than a maintenance job. But when you look at the number of projects let, that gives you the distribution with safety and intersections and enhancements, and we'll talk about that a little bit more when I get to the traffic section, versus the bridge replacement repairs, general maintenance contracts that are on our roadways, state industrial access, which is a great program. It's that last mile to a project, so to speak. I guess not exactly always a last mile, that's kind of the way we say it. It allows us to go in and help when people have economic development opportunities in both urban and rural sections of the state. Looking at some of the technology that we're doing now, pavement marking and testing inventory. It's one of the things when you do, we go around and we actually inventory all of our striping, make sure that we've got the right reflectivity on new projects, as well as knowing when it needs to be done again. We do that with actually a machine that's part of a vehicle now. We have dynamic message boards. A lot of those are actually tied to our transportation management center, our health center. Weather monitoring stations throughout, a lot of that we do as well. All of our plans now are electronic, which is a big step for us, getting away. I'm still a paper person. I love paper, still draw on paper. I'm not good at drawing on the plan grid like Dexter does. I'm not quite there yet, but I do use it a lot. But we have the ability to go out as we meet with people and actually do it in tablet form now. So. Traffic signing and marking, and this is one of the areas that's really close to home for a lot of us. When you look at communities across the region and throughout Knox County, at the end of the day, we're serving the public, and this is a very integral part. We do have a sign and marking office. We do a lot of stuff in-house, as you can see. On top of that, we look at a lot of low cost safety operation improvements, and it's great. And y'all being on the county commission, you appreciate when you're able to stretch your dollars, and we're the same way. I mean, look, if I can make a huge improvement for less money, we're all about doing that. Sometimes they're interim improvements. These guys are real innovative. When you look at some of this, and we've got one project sitting over here to the right, there's this engineering graph that you'll see here. And this is on I-40, 75, and you'll recognize it. What's really interesting here is there was actually an identified Improve Act project that we're still going to do, but actually move it further west to get a better opportunity. But that job would have cost probably around $40 million to complete. What we were able to do with our staff here in the traffic office, we actually analyzed this carefully and went in and did a resurfacing, re-signing. We actually went in and reassigned the lanes, put a lot of markings down, and changed some things the way the traffic flow. And what we did is you see friction numbers up there, but basically we were able to reduce the conflict points and actually greatly improve the functioning of that area, actually get similar numbers of what the $40 million project would have cost. And, we spent $3 million. So anytime that we can do that, we try to do that. It's looking at diverging diamonds and things like that, getting really in the operational weeds there. The 407 project, I know a lot of us go to Dollywood and up there. And we'll talk, we got one coming to Knoxville, another one coming to Knoxville soon at a key area. But, that particular project we were able to do inside of the right of way, start to finish, from it being on the hood of a car at the Smokies parking lot to get it to contract in less than 3 years. No right of way. The cost ended up being $11 or $12 million. The other options were around $40 million and would have took us 8 years to deliver because of the amount of right of way and function at a lower level of service. Being creative is one of the things that these guys do a ton of safety projects. Anytime there's, and that's one of the things where we engage the public and as well as our partners at the county or wherever that we're working in all across the state, is that, people know their area better than anybody. I live in Corrigan and Gibbs, so, I know those roads really well. So just like all of us do in our area, and we get feedback and we're able to go out and do some studies. The good thing about these guys, they don't study it and walk away. We actually keep a database and see how well our improvements and safety improvements and are doing. I mean, when you look at crash rates where we have fatalities and very high crash rates, and you make an adjustment, and we did one on Alcoa Highway, and we went from a very high crash rate with fatalities in a 2.5, 3 year period went to 0 accidents. When you're able to do that, you save some people's lives, and that's what it's all about. I also work a lot with developers, providing safe and reasonable access. One of the things is protection of corridors. We spend a lot of money on corridors, sometimes with bypasses. And if we're not careful as an agency, us and our local partners, then a few years later, someone can be asking for a bypass. I think Greenville's an example where we built a bypass and built another bypass, and now we're back at the same thing. Not managing those corridors to make sure that we keep them running safely and efficiently as we do smart development at the same time. So, the big thing is, making sure that we're able to provide a great transportation system for Tennesseans. Incident management, most of us know those guys, the yellow help trucks, and obviously our incident management center here at the region. You see a video wall in the picture there. We monitor all across East Tennessee. Regional incident management doesn't start or stop just in the urban areas. Actually, we do incident management all across the region. We have a very aggressive incident management plan as far as getting roadways open and effectively, knowing that for every minute that you have a lane closure, the likelihood of a secondary crash and how it increases exponentially is very important to us to be able, and we have a very robust that ability to go out and help law enforcement, emergency personnel. We got a great relationship now to be able to do that. We have rural incident management, and we're continuing to grow that. If you look at any of our 3-year plans, a lot of times you'll see some of that ITS work going on as we kind of continue to get the bang for our buck out of our infrastructure to make it run smoother, faster, and give information to drivers and motorists as quickly as possible. We talk about incident response, and I'm going to show a short video here that, a lot of our folks, we respond to incidents on roadways, slides, floods. Last February, we had 72 or 76 slides in East Tennessee alone. Many of those were massive, 200-foot fills. Roadways are gone. We were talking about 70 and 66 up in Hawkins County. One fatality out of that where someone actually drove off that road. When you look at the response, we were able to do emergency contracts with our project development staff, operations staff, geotechnical, everybody together and get contracts out in a matter of days on some of these, develop complete sets of plans, environmental clearances, and get major projects that were $10, $20 million projects out in a number of days. We respond to a lot of things. We think about snow and ice, and this next video is one that it's a little bit of a picture of what happened in Gatlinburg a few years ago. Most people probably didn't realize, but the largest agency to respond to the Gatlinburg fires was TDOT. We had more personnel, more people, more equipment there than any agency in the state. So I think that what's next, Andy?
Use their skills and experience to clear roadways and to assist other emergency response crews. They risk their own lives to save the lives of others. This is their story.
We train for emergencies. We train for clearing roads in emergencies. We train for getting roads back open when they're closed. What you don't train for is, the life or death situation, the realization that, you're in a real emergency and it's ongoing. This isn't the aftermath, this isn't the cleanup. You're right in the middle of it.
Power lines, light poles are burning. You got a tandem piece of equipment that you are driving, trying to get through under power lines and trying to get through to try to get trees out of people's way so they could get out of there. It was scary, but I knew it was something that had to be done because you're dealing with people's lives up there.
I was expecting the worst, and when I got there, I seen some pretty bad things, buildings, cars, ambulances, police everywhere. It was chaotic. There's fire all around us. It's hot, it's smoky. Everybody's panicking, freaking out.
I'm standing there and I can't see 100 feet in front of me probably because of the smoke. That was as scared as I've ever been, I guess, on the job at TDOT. So, the firefighters are trying to cut the tree out of the road. They get 2 or 3 chainsaws stuck in the tree because it's flexing so much because of the way the wind's blowing. My contractor pulled up and said there was a tree down behind us. So at that point, we were blocked in, had a tree down in front, had a tree down behind. And I'm trying to start my chainsaw, and I hear a horn blow, or I saw flashing lights or something, and I turn around, and there's the TDOT dump truck, and that was Bradley in his dump truck. And I got up on it, and I said, you know, I don't care what happens to the truck, to their plow, get the tree out of the road. We've got to get all these folks to Gatlinburg.
That was a scary moment. There was an oak tree probably 4 or 5 foot around, and I had to use my plow as a weapon to move the tree. You know, chainsaws was hung up. There was no other way to get around it but to use a plow truck. And it was, in my eyes, it was scary. I was scared, just like everybody else. But I done what the duty calls for.
Bradley had to hit the truck, or the tree, 3 times with the truck to get it to move. He hit it from he backed up about 10 feet and pushed it, and it wouldn't move, and about 20 feet and pushed it, wouldn't move. The last time he backed up and got a little run and go and hit the tree, broke the snowplow, broke at least the hydraulic lines on the snowplow. The plow was actually dragging after he pushed the tree out of the road, and then there were sparks flying from the plow where it was dragging the road all the way to Gatlinburg, but we made it.
I'm going on 42 years with TDOT. I've never been through nothing like this before. I mean, I've been where houses are burned or buildings burn, but now not where it's burning on both sides of you, and you can feel the heat inside a piece of equipment, and you can feel the heat off of it. You so far from it, you know. It's not in the road where you're at, but it's so close. You can feel the heat. You just, you know, hoping that your equipment don't tire up on you, because if equipment tires up on you, you got to get out on foot.
You know, you were rescuing folks, but you were also rescuing rescuers. You know, they needed us to be able to get in and out. They needed us to be able to keep the roadways clear to evacuate. They needed us to be able to clear roadways to gain access, to get to where they needed to fight a fire or to rescue a group of people that were stranded.
Yeah. When you look at that, you know, that didn't happen by chance. That's something that we prepared for years. We actually have what we call a strike force. We put it together years ago. It's interesting. It was after Katrina when we wanted to go help Louisiana, and we couldn't. We wanted to go, but our equipment wasn't good. We didn't have the ability. You know, you never want to go into an emergency situation and you have to depend on anybody else. You have to be self-sufficient, or you're just a drain on everything that's there. So we went in and started to develop equipment and training, and each year we trained for different incidents. Matter of fact, the year that the Gatlinburg fires happened, our scenario was a fire. Now, we didn't know we were going to have a fire later, but that's what it was. But when you look at that, you know, in that instance, we were fueling all the agencies, all the fire trucks. They couldn't fuel themselves. There was no power. We were the ones that were mobile fueling. So we're able to go into areas and completely be self-sustaining. And that came to fruition this year. It's interesting. Lake Charles, Louisiana, earlier this year, when her first hurricane came through and ripped through Lake Charles, and was in such bad a shape, and Louisiana called for aid, and we were able to answer. Matter of fact, we sent crews down there and worked for over a week, and it was amazing what we were able to accomplish. But the thing was, we fed ourselves, we fueled ourselves, we went in, and we were able to clear a ton of roadways and debris to be able to get access for a lot of communities that were locked down and couldn't get in or out. You know, that's what that is. It's part of our strike force. I mean, it's amazing, the men and women that do this, to see them answer a call at any time. Like I said, there were many times that we went in and rescued people. We had a condominium complex or chalets, and the last place that wasn't burnt, all that was left was the clubhouse and the pool. Everything was burning around, and the first people they saw were TDOT guys in a truck, and we got them out of there. So, you know, that's some things that a lot of times people don't think about. We're going to talk a lot about roads and bridges and everything else that we do, but it's interesting that you quietly go about your business, and those are some things we do. Then we're going to move on to project development. So this is a real detailed, crazy thing. All these are steps to try to build a project. As you can see, that's a really complicated development process. Lots of decision trees, a lot of different milestones in there. We'll go to the next slide to make it a little easier. Basically how it works, right, Dexter, you know, you have a needs assessment. I'll let Dexter kind of walk you through this.
Yeah, so like Steve said, However, it comes to be a transportation need is recognized, whether it's by a community member, member of the public, a legislator, a mayor, a county commissioner, you name it. Projects come to be in a lot of different ways, through traffic studies, through RPOs, our rural planning folks, and our NPOs, metropolitan planning organizations. All those folks are doing traffic studies. So once a project is identified as a need, that's kind of the beginning of the project development process. And then we have three distinct phases here that get you to a letting, right? So the first phase is your preliminary engineering. And that's all the engineering work from environmental documentation, utility contacts and contracts, selecting alternatives, working through our environmental folks in the NEPA process to identify how we are going to address the identified need. So that's your engineering stage, right? So you're saying this is how we're going to fix the problem. Once we have the problem identified and the need has been addressed with a plan, we move into the next stage, which is acquiring the property needed to develop this new, whether it be a widening, a brand new road, or this new facility has to have space to do it on. That's when we move into the right-of-way phase. Right-of-way is not only buying property, it's also dealing with our utility companies because, as most of you probably know, most utilities live within the public right-of-ways. It's a free place for them to be. So we have to coordinate with them every step of the way. How is our new improvement to a facility going to impact the utilities that are out there? How do we need to consider those utilities sometimes in the design that we do? So that's one part of the right-of-way process. But the most glaring issue in the right-of-way is, again, buying the property. So we start contracting with appraisers. We go out and negotiate with property owners to acquire the property, and occasionally that ends in an opportunity where we have to go to court to actually get possession of the property. The third phase for development of the project is moving into construction. So I guess what I'd like to get across here is we fund projects in three phases. We fund preliminary engineering first, and once we moved our way through that part, we start funding the right-of-way. After we work through right-of-way, then we fund construction last. So what's important there is you don't want to lose the power of your dollar. If we funded the entire project on the front end and it takes 6 to 8 years to develop a big project, sometimes you lose the power of your spending dollar on construction when you put that money in a bank account 8 years earlier. So we try to spend all our money on an annual basis. And then when it's time for construction, we'll take the power of the dollar for that day to fund the construction. Because
Question.
Yeah.
Is there ever been a situation you don't like you fund the first person and it doesn't put funding for the other? Do you have a concept?
you're breaking up, I'm not quite following the question.
Sorry, it's echo here.
Go ahead, try.
Go ahead, try again.
Okay. When it's put through. Sorry for the echo. Do you get the budget thing and then fund out of each piece, or you actually have to fund the first, second, and the
Yeah, we do fund each phase individually. I think that's what you're asking, and we do that for a reason. Obviously, like we just don't want to tie up. So we identify the project and say the preliminary engineering, needs assessment, NEPA. A big project that could be a full-blown EIS, FEI. It could take several years to get through the environmental process, or it could have a categorical exclusion be shorter, but we'll fund that section. So if it takes 2 years to do that, we'll fund that section. We typically won't consider the next phase in the same 3-year plan to make sure we don't want to have put a slot for funding this section and not be ready for it. And then we'll come back and fund the right-of-way portion of it. And if it takes 36 months to get right-of-way, then we allow for that, as we're looking at a 10-year plan to drop construction in somewhere. Once that we have that right-of-way acquired, we have to certify that with Federal Highway, and if it's not certified, we don't have all of it, then that delays us being able to go to construction. We don't want to do that. We don't want to identify funding to get authorized and not actually be able to spend the money. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, all
Yeah, all
set.
set.
Okay.
Good deal. So go ahead and move forward. So now we'll get into investments that have been made. The first one there, map we're going to bring up is talk about current construction projects. All of them are obviously circled in red. We use colors to identify things. This is our red map, current construction projects. Got a slew of projects there, ranging from Chapman Highway with Evans to Burnett. We're moving along with that project pretty quickly. We'll get into some of the Alcoa Highway stuff a little later when we get into project development. I'll go through that whole corridor, but we got one of those listed, or three of those listed there. You come on around to I-140. It's a grade and drain job with Pellissippi Parkway at the westbound ramp to Dutchtown Road. Ongoing project that has a completion date of early 2021. And the next one around the map is State Route 162, also on Pellissippi Parkway, Hardin Valley Road interchange. That project's moving along at a good pace and anticipated in summer of 2021 completion. State Route 62, that's a grade and drain project that Jones Brothers has. That I think it's pretty much completed at this point. We're doing a little bit of an intersection modification, so we're still hanging on to that job along Western Avenue. And the next one is State Route 33, the Broadway Viaduct bridge replacement project. We're well along in that project. It's been a long time coming. It was a very complicated development project, getting the railroad satisfied with the designs and taking care of all their needs. That completion date currently sets in late 2022. So we'll get around to talking about the construction projects on Alcoa Highway a little bit further. Steve, you want to take the researching information?
This gives you a map, and this is some of the resurfacing projects around the Knox County area that you'll see here. If you look over to the right, you kind of get an idea of what we spend in a period of time. Now, what we do under resurfacing, and we'll get into it a little bit later, but we do a 3-year plan. But if you look at the total investments, you get an idea of what we spend. Each year, state routes and resurfacing around $17 million over that 3-year period. The next section down, you're looking at around $53 million on interstate resurfacing. Total of about $70 million over a 3-year period as part of the infrastructure maintenance, basically, of the roadway through resurfacing in the Knox County area. I've got it color coded here. Go back just a second, just so because y'all will get this presentation. You can see the legend that kind of tells you when something was paved or when something is scheduled to be paved. As you can see there, we do have a portion of I-640 that's set to go this spring. We're having to do some railroad coordination that's going to push that eastern side off. We'll do some additional maintenance projects in the interim on that one.
Can you talk about the issue with the railroads?
Talk about the issue of the railroads? Is that what you asked?
On 640.
Yes. Basically, what happened was, and I think I'm right, Dexter. So we built those a long time ago, and we probably have agreements somewhere, but when Federal Highway came in and audited, they said, we can't find your agreement. Essentially, is that right?
Yeah, it's agreement and rights to be there. Right. So historically, we used to get agreements with the railroad to allow us to build a bridge and inside their right of way, that kind of thing. And that's the case with 640. Is we've built a lot of bridges on railroad right of way. FHWA has come back over time and said, okay, if you're going to be on somebody else's property, you have to have an easement to be there. So as part of any project, we have to certify the right of way that we own it and have the right to be there. Obviously, we use federal dollars on interstate resurfacing, and to certify the right of way on this corridor, we have to prove and show where we own either right of way or an easement that allows us to be there, a permissive right to be there on that property. So we have to deal with this on every route that we have. It's something that's come up in the past 3 years. And as I'm sure most of you don't know, dealing with the railroad is a very time-consuming prospect. It's not something where you just show up and say, hey, we got this issue, we'd like to get it took care of. I mean, it's a very iterative process to get ownership of an easement for them. So we are working through that process with them, and it's just it delays projects quite frequently.
Yeah, it's something that's having an impact on us statewide. Each railroad's different as well internally on how they work through the easement or access process. So we're having to work through each of them differently as their internal regulations or requirements are there. But it's a priority for us. I mean, when you look at that 640 is number one priority we have, but we're going to get one piece of it, and we'll probably the next year before we get in 22 before we get the next piece. That being said, we're going to move out on I-40 and capture some of that on the west end that needs to be done in the interim. It was not originally in our plan for this year, it was next year, so we just flopped that one section of 640 and then added in that section of I-40 that you see on the cursor. All right. Through. When you look at resurfacing program, sometimes we look at it just paving, but there's a whole lot more that goes into that. It's asset management, and we do the same thing with our bridges as far as documenting. You look at total number of lane miles and what we're looking at. This gives you an idea of what we have in each of our regions across the state. There are 4 of them. When you think of it, you're looking at from Region 1 is furthest in the east. That's where we're at. And Chattanooga and north is Region 2. And then the Nashville area is 3. And then you go to the western end of the state, Memphis, Jackson, that area, that quadrant is Region 4. But that gives you an idea of the total number of assets that you have to take care of. This doesn't include the bridges, which are also we fund and do as part of the resurfacing project as well. About what we do every year, we get about $235 million that's programmed for us to use. 66 million on interstates, 169 million on state routes. As far as divvying out the money across the state, generally it's kind of works for the most part on the assets themselves. It's broken down percentage-wise, budget-wise by how much we have in each region. And then we kind of do that on a smaller plane when you look down inside of our sub-districts inside the region that we work with. Each of them kind of have their own program to prioritize what they need to do, whether it be in Johnson City or Morristown area, Roane County or Knox County, as it seems. That's a list, and we develop a 3-year plan, much like our 3-year multimodal plan that you'll see that we're working on right now actively. That you'll see it's a legislative event. The resurfacing program, we do a 3-year plan as well. We go in and do an extensive work with our district management, the people that are in those areas. I have a resurfacing coordinator, and he has some staff that worked in state aid as well as assist him in that as well, and look at all of the needs and where our lane miles are at as far as the condition they're in, try to maximize our money. As we move forward. It's not a situation where we do worse first. I'll talk about that in just a minute, but we do a review of the pavement management data. All these roads are ridden, and we get all kinds of data from IRIs and stuff like that to tell you what the condition of the pavement is, cracking, rutting. We do skid testing, all that stuff. We got historical data as well, and we have a database what we did, when we did it, what was done to it. And then we look with budget constraints for that district personnel, and they work within their budget to develop the best resurfacing plan that they can. We're trying to get a certain number of lane miles per year just to try to make sure you look at the total assets we have and the money and try to spread that and get as many lane miles as we can so that when we look at the cycle time that we're hitting our marks. Different things we use, and this gives you an idea how long things last. The OGFC, and you see that, and I know I really like it, and a lot of y'all may like it, especially if it's at night. But that's that open graded friction quartz. You've seen some on our interstates and some other major routes. It kind of wicks the water. You'll notice that you can see the lines really well, and there's no overspray from the trucks. you can kind of see that we'll get 9 to 11 years of life out of that. A traditional D-mix, we may get 12 years. And if it's a thin lift, and we do some thin lifts that are 3/4 of an inch instead of the normal traditional 1.25 inches, works pretty well, especially when you have lower volume roads, that we're able to stretch those dollars quite a bit. Hot in place recycling, we get about 10 years. That's where you pull the stuff up, redo it as you're in the big paving train. You got a bunch of stuff and you lay it right back down on the road. And you got some of the traditional other things where we put some of the binders or beef it up with structure. We'll see that a lot of the urban interstates. We'll do a binder layer, a structural layer, plus a layer on top to try to get it more longevity. You know, the thought process there, we also do some other things. You'll see occasionally and some microsurfacing, chip seals, and different things on low volume roads, just to try to stretch those dollars. That's kind of gives you an idea of what we're doing. And then we look through there, look at our budgets, we prioritize them, and then we submit them, and that's how we develop our plans in the project development part of the process. So you have operations, project development, pavement management, all working as one team to develop a comprehensive plan. We usually try to develop a few more plans than we actually have money for to stay ahead of it, just in case some money drops in or we get lower numbers on our estimates. Lately, we haven't had much of a problem with our numbers coming in low. They've been a little higher, but we always have that in our pocket just in case. That just gives you a little bit of timeline of what we do. I mean, it's a year-long process. It starts early in the year. This gives you an idea of this. We have a question? This kind of gives you an idea of the schedule that we have on projects and how each of the milestones that we have to do throughout the process to make sure that we get all of those turned in and ready to spend the money. You have a couple of different times of year. You're dealing with federal money and state money, depending on what project. We usually garner as much federal money as we can on the routes that are eligible.
This is Rob Link with County IT. Sounds like we might have an echo there as well. I will go ahead and relay the questions that Mike can put up in the chat.
Okay.
From Commissioner Daly, what is the cost per mile to pave federal or state roads?
You have that?
I don't have that.
No, I can get that in 2 seconds, but go to the next question. I'll look it up. I'll get it right now.
That's all I have right now.
I'm texting right now my pavement manager to get what that cost is. We'll go on and I'll follow up with that.
Okay. Yeah, so now we'll move into projects that are currently under development in the Knoxville area and Knox County area. So this map here shows most of the projects that we have under development. We'll go through these one at a time, just give you an update on where we are. But what I want you to notice is the blue boxes are projects that are in Knox County, and the green boxes are yellow. I'm not sure what color that is. Boxes are projects that are of regional significance that are in your neighboring counties and probably service a lot of folks that live in Knox County. So we'll start there at the top with project number 1, which is Knox County State Route 62 from State Route 131 to Shod Road. This is a widening project, I guess, on Western Avenue or Oak Ridge Highway, headed towards out towards Anderson County. This project is still very early in the process, and we are in the planning process. We have funded this very early in what we call location services part of it, the environmental part, and we're working through putting together a conceptual plan to address the need. We have not moved into we're half funding for real engineering work with the full design and survey. This is more a preliminary planning type report. Go ahead.
Our answer is about $200,000 per lane mile for the resurfacing. Okay, go ahead.
So project number 2 there is State Route 9 or Clinton Highway at West Beaver Creek Drive intersection project. This project is one that we were partnering with the county. I think Jim Snowden's bunch is working on acquiring the right of way, and I think the county is participating in the funding of this project. We are realigning West Beaver Creek Drive as it attaches to Clinton Highway and adding offset turn lanes there to help mitigate a safety issue and improve sight distance. So we're moving along with this project, but we're at the stage where I think the county is reaching out for or trying to acquire a consultant to come in and purchase the right of way. So we've got several relocations on that job. I would anticipate probably a year and a half worth of right of way work, and then we'd be able to go to construction as soon as that is done.
I think there's a point there that Dexter mentioned that's really important, and Knox County has been great to do. Those partnerships go a long way to moving projects up. I know I could think, Harbison's Crossroads, they're at 33 North Freeway. Right now in Dexter, right on the I-75 portion that you look at, that's in blue. If you look below there and there's a little insert, that's one that the Knox County and the TPO are both participating with us. We broke this portion out, and I don't know if the rest of you know, but Emory Road interchange has lots of cars and a lot of challenges. Several years ago, we looked at a ramp queue project through Federal Highway, came back, and the level of service didn't really improve. It just kind of parked a lot of cars on the ramp and didn't really address the efficiency of the interchange. And what we're able to do here, and you can see a conceptual of what we're working on right now to move forward into engineering and then right-of-way, is a diverging diamond, much like what you have at Bessemer Street. We have one at the 407, obviously, that you all have driven through and how efficient that is. I have one right now at Boones Creek up in Upper East Tennessee on I-26. And this is what we're looking at, but the creativity to come through, this is a very creative and innovative thing that our traffic folks and planning folks came up with, and the partnership that we have with the county. The TPO has been able to push this project forward. It's a big need. We'll still be widening I-75, but that job's going to take a long time. We felt like breaking this piece out allows it to move forward and hit a spot that has had incredible growth, and this can handle that growth for years to come. So.
Yeah, so like Steve said, we've broke out the Virgin Diamond is from the bigger project there, which is widening of I-75 from State Route 131 or Emory Road up to State Route 170. I guess that's Raccoon Valley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So that project is getting started as well. We're early in the design phases of that project. We do have a planning report already in hand, so we kind of know what we're going to do. But we're heavy in survey right now, moving quickly into the design phase. We have a consultant designer on board to do that work. The fourth project there is a big project for the region. This is a regionally significant project, not just a Knox County project. Is the interchange at I-75, 275, and 640. We affectionately call it the Sharps Gap interchange. Andy will probably scroll in there and we look at the concept, but we were really early in this project as well. We're just now finishing up the design, or not the design, but the preliminary planning report. And then there's a lot here. We could probably do a full presentation on this project all alone, but we'll just scroll through here real quick. And the idea here is to try to separate traffic that's going on 75 or is going to make the move onto 640 prior to the Merchants Drive interchange. So we can eliminate some of those conflict points between 640 and Merchants Drive. So we'll get that traffic separated out. Folks will already have made their decision prior to going through the 640, 75, 275 interchange. And you'll be lined up to make this movement's a lot better, a lot smoother without having to weave traffic back and forth. Like I say, there's a lot to talk about here. a lot more than this meeting will handle. I just want everybody to see that we have a plan moving forward that's going to address a lot of the congestion issues here in the peak hours. And just to let you know, it's really early, but we are working on this one at a pretty good pace. The next quadrant of projects is, I guess, our first green project of this conversation is number 5. It says the completion of a corridor, an important corridor coming into Knox County. A lot of folks from north of us travel to Knox County to work. So this is a corridor completer all the way from Tazewell all the way into Knoxville, where we've had three phases. We had one in Knox County, in the northern part of Knox County. This is the missing link, and we've done the one up in Maynardville already. This project is in this year's federal fiscal year. We anticipate going to construction in the third quarter of the year, probably late summer would be the best bet for that one. We are widening an existing 2-lane to a 5-lane, straighten out some curves and that kind of thing, but it'll greatly improve capacity through there and finish an important corridor for growth in the northern part of the county and on up into Union County as well for connectivity. The sixth project is Knox County State Route 131. This project is early. I guess this is the eastern edge of Emory Road, right? Mm-hmm. Heading out towards Corrigan. And it starts there, State Route 33, and ends at State Route 331. This also is a widening project going from an existing 2-lane to a 5-lane. And we are really early in this one as well. We're in surveying. We have a design consultant on board, ready to start that work, design work once the survey is complete. The 7th project is on 640 again. There it's exit 8, Washington and Middletown Pike interchanges, east and west of the old mall location. We're adding turn lanes and capacity improvements to the intersections. Do you have some conceptuals there, Andy, that we can scroll in on? This project is currently setting into February letting, so we're moving quickly to construction on this one. We hope to see contractor out there probably starting in probably end of March, early April. I guess this is the concept coming up from 640 westbound, approaching the mall. We're adding an additional right turn lane on this section and widening the ramp all the way back toward the interstate. So we'll have a lot more storage capacity here and improving some radiuses and adding additional through lane through the next intersection up at there. I think that's McDonald's at that intersection. And then it carries on down through to the next intersection towards Food City and all those good things. On the other end, at 640 westbound exit. Yeah, right there, Andy. Here we are adding an additional left turn lane. Is that right? This is on there. That's not the right. Yeah, that's the wrong approach. Hang on.
We had a follow-up question to Commissioner Daly's question about paving.
Yeah.
In reference to $200,000 per lane mile, does that mean if a road is 4 lanes wide, it's 4 times 200,000?
Yes, and then let me give you a breakdown on that. So that is for like an interstate where I'm putting in a binder course or a structural 2-inch layer plus 1.25 inches. If you do a regular, just 1.25 inches of D, you're looking at about $90,000 a lane mile. If you have to mill it, and a lot of times when you have curb and gutter, that'll add another $10,000 to get you to about $100,000. We do thin lifts, 2 different sizes. One of them's 85 pounds square yard. For instance, a regular D of 1.25 inches is 132.5 pounds per square yard. The thin lift is less than that. It's a 3/4 inch roughly lift. It's about $70,000 per lane mile. If our road's in pretty good place, you know, we don't want to always do worst first. You know, part of increasing the pavement life is to try to get the right fix at the right time. So I can do a thin lift early on and extend the life of that thing 14 or 15 years versus letting it deteriorate for 2 more years and going in and spending, you know, $100,000 a lane mile rather than $50,000 a lane mile. So that kind of gives you that, but it is per lane. So if you have a 4-lane highway and you were doing an overlay of D only, that's $100,000 per mile per lane. So it'd be $400,000 for 1 mile of 4-lane roadway.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, back on this westbound 640 exit to Washington Pike. You can see there in the light gray color, that's the existing pavement widths. So we're adding pavement width to it's not really to add an additional left turn lane. I think we're adding an additional through lane maybe. Or it won't be a shared left through. It'll be a dedicated left turn lane, additional dedicated left turn lane, and a right turn lane as well. So we're just improving that intersection there for capacity and safety as well. And like I say, that project is set to let in our February letting. So we should have contractor out there pretty early next year. Project number 8 is the I-40, I-275 interchange. It's a PROVAC project. That's one Steve talked about a little earlier, that we've done a lot of improvements with the resurfacing project. So we kind of are expanding the limits of this project, and we were early in the planning phase to figure out what that's going to be. With those improvements that we made with the resurfacing project, it kind of moved some of the congestion and backups more toward the 640 interchange with 40 there on the west end of town as you approach the paper mill exit. So we're kind of expanding the limits of what we want to study there and what improvements we want to make. We don't have an answer there. We've not come up with a plan to address the need yet, but that's what we're working towards. Next phase of projects here is project number 9 is what we talk about as the big Chapman Highway project. This is State Route 71 from Blunt Avenue all the way to Boyd's Creek Highway. This is about a 10-mile section of roadway. We're early in the planning phases here as well. We're trying to figure out how we want to address the needs there. There are a lot. This project is really looked at as a safety project, so our first priority would probably be to add that center left turn lane all the way through this corridor, and then we will go from there to see what other needs we can address. It's kind of in that same vein. We have 2 more projects there. They're the next one's on the list. Number 10 is just a little bit. It's within the limits of the number 9. There's 2 projects we already had going. Number 10 is from Evans to Burnett Lane. This project's already been let to contract, so we're adding that center left turn lane on that project. Number 11 is about another mile-long section of roadway on Chapman Highway from Simpson Road to Hendon Chapel. We anticipate letting this project in the summer of 2021. We're finishing up right-of-way negotiations with a few property owners right now to get that project underway. These projects are important projects to address safety along the Chapman Highway corridor. We know it's a heavily traveled roadway, and getting separation between your south and north movements gives people a lot of room to make mistakes, which right now you just don't have with no center left turn lane. Just get that separation of traffic. And of course, it gives people opportunity to get out of traffic to make those left turns. So it's a 2-phase approach to safety there. You're protecting the person that needs to make the left turn, and you're giving a buffer zone between opposing lanes of traffic. Project number 12 there is in Blount County. This is the Pellissippi Parkway extension. We are heavy in the preliminary design phase on this one. The next thing to get done in this project is to go to a public design meeting. So we have a design or a preliminary design in hand. We're ready to show it to the public. As you can imagine, that is a bit of a hiccup right now in what's going on in the world today. A public design meeting is not something that everybody wants to rush out to, but it's a required part of the process. So we're trying to figure out how to hold a public design meeting in the COVID era that we're living in right now. So that's kind of put a pause button on this project, in the sense that the next thing that we have to do is check that mark that we presented our findings to the public. As soon as we figure out how to have that meeting safely, that will get that project moving again. Project number 13. This is probably a kind of standalone project for Alcoa Highway corridor. We'll get up to project number 21 there on the map last, which we'll talk what we affectionately call to is the Alcoa Highway corridor, which is really from Knoxville there, Cherokee Trail, all the way down to the airport. This project number 13 starts at the airport and continues south. I think some people refer to it as the Maryville bypass, I think, or the bypass, highway bypass project. It's from Hall Road to State Route 73 or US 321. That's a widening project as well. We'll be going from a 4-lane highway to a 6-lane highway in that section. We're finishing up survey. We're in preliminary design. We'll be moving to right away, hopefully sometime this year. Project 14 is State Route 1, Kingston Pike at North Shore Drive. This project also is in preliminary engineering phases. We're using what's kind of new to us in some ways is some SUE techniques, subsurface utility engineering and investigation. This intersection in the middle of a heavily used part of town has all the utilities you can imagine there. So we're doing a lot of surveying work, working with non-destructive testing to get down to find out where all these utilities are so we can have a good, successful construction project once we get there. The next phase is right away on this job. And I guess we would probably be looking at a 2 years worth of right away and utility work here before moving to a construction phase. Project 15 is I-75. This is a widening project in Loudoun County. We're early in the planning phases on this one. We just got PE funding in the past year, and we're going through preliminary planning stages to figure out how we're going to address the needs there. We're going to widen to the inside, widen to the outside, all those kinds of things. Next phase would be moving into full-blown design. Project number 16, Knox County, State Route 131 at Parkside Drive, Turkey Creek. You want to move in on the concept there, Andy, but really it's a set of plans. So what we're doing here is we're trying to add capacity to the right turn lane. We're adding an additional right turn lane coming from the interstate towards Turkey Creek. We are also lengthening the existing right turn lane to add capacity or storage capacity for that lane. Would get people out of the through traffic earlier, which will make this intersection work a lot more efficiently. Pretty simple job, but the biggest issue here is we have to work through the neighboring property there. When this project and Turkey Creek was developed, there's a big wetland area there that is protected right now, and we have to work through with our environmental agencies and regulatory agencies to figure out how we're going to have minimal impact there and still address the needs of the roadway. Our next project is number 17. It's Knox County, State Route 162, Hardin Valley Interchange. As we talked about earlier, it showed up in the red. It's under construction currently. Number 18 is State Route 162 interchange, also affectionately called the Solway interchange. If you'll scroll in on that concept. Okay, so what we're looking to develop here is instead of a 3-legged interchange for these 2 state routes, is to make it more of a, I hate to say common because it's not a common design, but it is more of a traditional interchange where you have exit ramps and have the opportunity to move in different directions at the bottom of the ramps coming off of 62. What we are developing here, we have a few of these around town, is a SPUI. It's a single point urban interchange. Yeah, I lost my word there for a minute. So instead of having two legs of or two different intersections on each side of the main thoroughfare. You have one intersection in the middle under a bridge where you have one set of red lights that'll have a couple phases, and it cuts down on conflict points and moves traffic a lot more efficiently. This is a partnership project with Knox County. We are going to be adding that other leg. It's not really an extension of the state route, but it ties in there if you keep moving to the west. It's their relocation of Saltway Road to sort of tie into the interchange and eliminate some at-grade intersections with some of the county roads to improve efficiency through this interchange and safety. This project is hopefully will move pretty quick through the design phase, and we'll be able to move into right of way hopefully sometime in 2021. Project 19 is another county partnership. It's an intersection of State Route 131 Emory Road and Harrell and Carpenter. Scroll in on that concept. This is one where the county is providing some funding to keep this project going. We currently have 2 lanes on Emory Road in each direction. We are adding dedicated left and right turn lanes on Emory Road, moving on to Carpenter and Harrell both. We're realigning, I think that's Carpenter to the north, and adding a dedicated right turn lane and a shared right or left through. Same kind of concept on the Harrell side. We're realigning it just a little bit coming north, and we will end up signalizing this intersection. Project number 20 is in Anderson County, State Route 170 Edgemore Road, from State Route 62 to State Route 9 Clinton Highway. This project is just moved out of the planning stage, moving into the design stage. We have a consultant on board. It will be split into 2 projects, one starting there at State Route 62 going up to Melton Hill Drive, and then from Melton Hill Drive to State Route 9 will be the second project. They'll be developed independently and led independently to construction projects, but they are early in the survey and design phase at this point. So now we'll move into Project 21, which is really a conglomeration of projects. This is the Alcoa Highway Corridor. We have 7 projects along this corridor to get you from UT Medical Center all the way down to the airport. The first project there in green is the last project to go to construction in Knox County. We are currently moving towards a summer 2021 letting on this project. It starts there at Woodson Drive and goes all the way to Cherokee Trail. We have a real quick animation that we'll run through showing what this interchange will, not just interchange, but this section of highway will look like. It's a 3D model of the design as it sets today. We are improving the Woodson access there with a roundabout, widening to 6 lanes from 4 lane, moving into the side of the hill or mountain, as some would say. You see those huge retaining walls along the way. And this is the reconfigured interchange at Cherokee Trail, which services UT Medical Center here to the north. You can see, or to the east, you can see where the ramps come to the back of the hospital and tie in with their parking lots. You can also see, as we come back around, what is now the new front entrance to the hospital, starting right there at that intersection, comes back around and ties into a series of roundabouts that will feed you right into the front door of the hospital. It also services UT farms there across the Alcoa Highway, and also UT's golf facility as well. So that's a important project that will link up some construction jobs that we already have going to the south of there. The first project that went to letting on this corridor was from Maloney Road to Woodson Drive. This project is nearing completion. I'm not sure what the completion date is, but almost dare say probably the middle of 2021. The next project down in blue, we went to letting about a year ago. We've been under construction for about a year. This is from the Blount County line up through Maloney Road that includes the Johnsonville interchange, and we have a real quick animation for it as well, 3D model. This one isn't quite as far along as the other one, but it will give you an idea of what it looks like. We're creating a interchange for the Topside Road just north of the county line there, with a off-ramp going to Johnsonville. This is a little bit of the pedestrian path, greenway along the corridor. And you can see the interchange with Johnsonville, how it has changed. No more of that crossing over in the middle to be able to hit south onto Alcoa Highway. Again, this is not as refined 3D model. We're still in the early phases of development of this 3D model. It should predict, if it continues to play, should show you the 6-lane section that we're building through here. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to cooperate, Andy. Let's just move on. So that'll finish up the Knox County sections of the Alcoa Highway development. The red section here is the kind of the middle section of all of this, and it will be the last section to go to construction. We just moved into the right-of-way and appraisal and acquisition phase of this project. It's a huge lift, I dare say, in the $50 million range just to buy the property necessary to develop this section. Then we move on to next two sections, which are really going to work together. The brown section, which is from Pellissippi Parkway and includes the Pellissippi interchange all the way up through Singleton Station. And then the purple section that's below that one starts there at the airport and brings you all the way to Pellissippi. This is, we call these two pieces together the relocated State Route 115 or relocated Alcoa Highway. These two are moving towards construction, hopefully in FY22. We anticipate currently to let these two projects together in two different phases. We want to do a grading phase where we do a lot of the earthwork, and if you'll scroll back up there, Andy. For the purple and brown, we're going to let those two together, and we'll do a lot of earthwork and some bridge work to accommodate local traffic. In the first phase, it's going to be nearly $100 million project, and we'll follow up with an additional $85 to $100 million project to finish it up, which is we'll come in and pave it, do most of the bridges around the Pellissippi Parkway interchange. The reason we need to develop these two projects together is if we turn on one without the other, it becomes a traffic issue. You start, if for instance, we do the brown one, we get it done, then traffic on Alcoa Highway would have to come down, navigate the Pellissippi Parkway interchange to get them back up on the existing Alcoa Highway. So we made the decision to develop these two together, which leads to a two-phase construction. The seventh project on the list is there, I guess the teal colored section. It's under construction now. It's builds the interchange for Hall Road and State Route 30. Is that State Route? 335, yeah. Along the corridor, it ties it back into the to existing Alcoa Highway. So that will receive the new relocated Alcoa Highway when we get there. Overall, we'll go into a bit of a timeline for this corridor. You can see the first, we are already headed towards construction for the orange one there. Everything behind that, the green, the teal, and the blue, already under construction. We're headed toward construction pretty quick for orange. The two relocated Alcoa highways, we're looking at a 22 for phase one, and then we'll have to follow up with a phase two, probably in the 26 range. And then about the same time, we'll go into the construction for the red section once we get right-of-way acquisitions finished. So that's kind of the time frame and schedule for the Alcoa Highway corridor, and most of the projects are in the Knox County or greater Knox County area. Open to any questions you may have about any of these projects.
We do have a couple questions. The first one's from Commissioner Bussler. On the Emory Road 75 North project, what's going to happen to fix the curb cuts that cause much of the problems there?
And that'd be the Emory Road interchange. Yeah, scroll back to the Virgin Diamond.
Well, you all that up. Presentation LP this one is this some shape where I could show the commissioners.
Yes, we can send you this presentation.
Correct.
Okay. It doesn't look exactly like this. This Prezi stuff doesn't print out page by page, kind of like you'd like for it to, but we can get you most of it.
Yeah, we get this to you, but you can see some of the changes there where you're changing access there at Starbucks. I think that may be what you're asking. What you see is we're building roads along the back to funnel people out to the intersection that has a signalization there where the Kroger's is. So when you're coming out of Crystal and McDonald's and all those, if you want to go out and turn left, then you'll come out to the intersection of there at Connor Road. If not, then you're going to be funneled to a right in, right out in front of those businesses.
Yeah.
That cleans that up. You see the same thing at the Pilot as well, with the backage road there as well for in the Marathon Buddies Barbecue there, as well as the commercial bank. And that'll help facilitate some of that. There's just too much going on close to the intersection for us to do merging down there and effectively get traffic through. What the beauty of this concept is, a lot of us drive it, me included. In the afternoons or in the mornings, it's just a bear to get down Emory Road in this intersection, and this will be able to flush the traffic not only on the interstate where we're addressing the backing up of traffic on the interstate, which is a dangerous situation, but it's also going to get 31 to flush at the interchange as well, and we're going to be able to get improved capacity and throughput there without as much congestion. So it's going to be a really, really good project.
Yeah. So what this really does for you as a user is if you're coming west on Emory Road headed toward the interchange, if you wanted to go south on I-75 in today's configuration, you not only have to navigate all those different businesses with curb cuts and all that stuff that are coming in and out of there, but you also have to go through 2 signals to get on that southbound ramp. By flopping in the center there, by flopping the direction, you only go through 1 signal, and then you have a free flow ramp going up onto the interstate. So you only have to go through 1 set of signals or one intersection to get onto that ramp. And of course, it's the same way going the other way. If you're coming eastbound, you only have to go through 1 signal. So that's how this thing becomes efficient. It cuts down on all the conflict points that you navigate when you go through this interchange.
What's the conflict reduction?
We reduce it by 8.
It's an 8 conflict reduction when you do this versus a traditional interchange.
And you get the same improvements when you're coming off the ramps. When you're coming off the ramp, if you're going west, you only have to go through one intersection, signalized intersection right there. If you want to go east, you go through none. So you only have to you come to a yield condition, but you have as long as it's clear, you have the freedom to just move on without having to stop at times.
All right. Other questions?
I'm not seeing it right now.
Good deal. I think that wraps up what we got done, Steve.
Yeah, I think that sort of concludes the presentation itself. So like I said, if there's any questions you have, we'll be glad to do our best to answer them. Got one here.
Hi, this is John Schoonmaker. I've got a question regarding the Interstate 7540 and Interstate I-140, where they're the interchange lighting program. Apparently, TDOT's been working on this since July of 2016. And it's my understanding this is the only interchange where 2 interstates connect that aren't lighted. And I understand Commissioner Bright got involved in October of this year, and I was wondering if you had any updates for us on how you're going to be moving forward with the lighting of the intersection there of 75 and I-140.
I'm not sure if I have an update on. I don't. I can check on that and get back and send that out when we send out our information. I'll get you an update on it.
Okay, I know Martin Daniel's been working over the years previously on that, but it looked like it was now starting to roll along. Because that is a big safety issue for the folks who live in Knox County.
Are there any other questions for our TDOT partners right now? I'm not hearing or seeing any. I would, if you could send me that presentation in whatever format it's in. I know it. I don't know if you have links to the fly-throughs or how that would work, but I know those in attendance would probably like it as a good reference, and then those who aren't able to be here to look at it. So if you could send that to me, I'll get it out with additional information to everybody.
We can do that.
Thank you to our team at TDOT, and we appreciate your time. And I think what it's interesting to see is how much is going on in and around Knox County, in addition to all of our engineering and public works projects. Just for Knox County to have so much going on from a state level shows not only a growing region and growing county, but a lot of state dollars and local dollars being spent on infrastructure as we grow fast. So I actually find it very encouraging to see all of the projects in the works. I know that it's hard to look at the timeline and see it in all, and I think one of those had at 2029 even, but it never starts without somebody saying this is an area we should focus on. So appreciate all of your time and resources. Look forward to getting that presentation, and thanks to everybody at Knox County IT for putting today's chairman's briefing together. And if you have any other questions for the TDOT group, I'll include their information as well in the follow-up information. So thank you all, and have a great Monday.